Today I'm going to be bringing you more cushion trail running shoe options for 2025. If you caught my best cushion 2025 video, you'll notice that none of the shoes on the table in front of me here were featured in that video. I did receive all of these shoes after filming that, so I thought it was appropriate given that these are some really good shoes sitting on the table in front of me. I did a follow-up video. We want to have all the cushioned options out there on the table, especially going into the holiday season. If you're thinking about needing more cushion for out on the trails, maybe thinking about spending some of that gift money, gifting your favorite trail runner a cushion trail shoe that's going to give them nice comfort through the rest of 25 and beyond into 2026. So let's start off straight out the gate with the On Cloudsurfer Trail 2 here. This is a model that I've tested before. I've run in V1. I also do have the waterproof version of the shoe. I have a full video review, so check that out. One thing I want to point out on this shoe throughout this review, I'm going to talk about the main features as I see them with this shoe, is the feeling of cushion underfoot. In this shoe in particular, it feels really centered under the middle of the foot. It has Cloudsurfer in the name, and this is something that I mentioned in the review. It does seem like you're kind of surfing that cushion that is directly centered right here under the middle of the shoe. I noticed some contouring under the arch. It's more of a full contour. We are going to talk about arch contouring in a bunch of all these shoes here. It seems full throughout the arch. So when I say that, it means not just poking up on the instep here. It comes across through the full width of the foot. So you really feel pretty well supported underfoot in this shoe. I've got this shoe in the US 10, of course. I do go a half size up in On. 10.5 ounces here, 298 grams, 39 millimeters under the heel, and 31 under the forefoot. So with that heel measurement, I do note it does feel like with the cushion centered so much under here, the heel does tend to sink a little bit on touchdown, on compression of this shoe. It just feels like you get that real soft cushion here. It's a Helion foam, not Helion HF, so this is an EVA olefin blend. So it's not your traditional EVA. That olefin gives it a little bit of bounce, but nothing crazy here. It also relies on the mechanical cushioning of the CloudTech pods here. So the foam is squishing itself, and then those pods are compressing. You could see I could even press them in my hand. So you're getting a bit of foam compression plus mechanical compression on the run. I do feel that center portion pushes up into the middle of the foot, and the heel seems to kind of sit down a little bit lower on the run. This can tend to put a little strain on your Achilles. I noticed that a little bit, but overall this is a super comfortable shoe. The weight is a little bit up since version 1. I did note that, and it just seems like the materials are very premium, of course, from On. Swiss engineering, you can see a little flag there, but everything is just very well made. There's not a stitch out of place in this shoe, and I feel like it does lean more into the comfort side of the equation than the performance side of the equation. I had good heel hold in this shoe. Check out my full review for all the details on the fit, the ride, etc. I will just note with this shoe in particular, it feels more comfort oriented than it has in the past. Again, everything just feels plush wrapping around the foot. And in my review, I noted that I didn't necessarily have the best ground feel, again, because you do have a lot of stack, 39, 31. You're also kind of balancing the shoe, around that cushion centered around the middle of the foot. So you do have to be careful when running in this one, because it is a little bit tall. You don't have a super wide platform here, and again, it is high. Getting back to the plushness of the materials and comfort, everything is just really thick. The inside, the tongue especially, don't worry about lace bite in this model. It's just super comfy, and that makes it kind of a little tricky to feel the shoe wrapping around your foot when you're running in more challenging terrain. I'd say this is a shoe that's well suited for gravel paths, rail trails, that sort of thing, easier light terrain. I typically do a little bit of a Q&A when I do these videos here, so I have one question here on the On. This comes from Hey Mr. Guitar Man 7637. Honestly, I'm finding more than ever that I value grip feel on UK trails more than anything else. I get that in the US a lot of trails are essentially hard-packed fire roads where stability isn't a concern, But here in the UK, we are mostly on wet, technical, single track, and these high stack shoes can be lethal. Previously, I've used the Hoka Tecton X3, but lower stack and just toughening up my feet is the way I'm moving forward. These shoes look decent for some folk though. Great review as always. Yeah, I pretty much talked about that there. Wet technical terrain. Of course, this shoe, very shallow lugs here. I believe these are 2mm here. Actually, 1.5mm lug. So you're not getting depth of traction. UK terrain, technical, wet, muddy. This is not the shoe for you. We talked about the shoe being high. Also felt the same kind of thing. It's just not the shoe for that type of UK terrain. We had an ensuing discussion about terrain in the US, and you know, the US is a big country, so we do have technical terrain in certain areas. A lot of my videos are close here in the foothills, so I tend to, from my house, get to run in smoother terrain, but I can go slightly further up and get into some more challenging terrain. Next shoe I have is the Hoka Challenger 8. Let's start off with a Q&A comment right away. Love this shoe at first. Nice ride and super comfortable. Unfortunately, the quality of the ride deteriorated pretty quickly for me. Got 175 kilometers in them, and they are already starting to feel bricked. Super disappointing considering how much I liked the shoe initially. My response to this was yes, the initial impression and softness, especially in the rear, is pretty striking in these. Stack on these. 43 I measured at the heel, 7mm drop gives 36 at the forefoot. This is again a US size 10 in Hoka and On. I tend to go a half size up, so US 10 here. This shoe weighs in at 9.9 ounces, 282 grams, so a little bit lighter than this one and also higher stack. Check out another full video review I have on this one. This shoe has a very unique feel, perhaps out of all the trail shoes that I have, and it's certainly the ones on this table. It feels very heel oriented. If you are a heel striker and you just want that heel cushion, this is a good option to look at. You could see right here, what it looks like is where the foam is oriented. I talked about the foam being oriented kind of under the middle of the foot in this On shoe here. Here, it's clearly under the heel. You don't have kind of that rocker in terms of pushing up in the middle of the foot, but you do have Hoka's Meta rocker. But the heel does feel supported in this shoe. It doesn't feel like on landings that the heel is getting sunken down in the rear of the shoe. It really feels like a huge stable slab, essentially the back half of the shoe. And it is extremely, extremely soft. You can see the side profile here. I showed this in my full review. This, curiously, section of unoutsole foam here is pretty much the landing spot that this shoe wants to ride on. It wants to get onto that middle section and just roll forward. You will feel big squish in the shoe. It feels super soft. It's Hoka's pretty standard compression molded EVA. We're going to talk about that in another shoe here. It does feel like they definitely do different varieties of their EVA foams. This feels like one of their softest varieties. So big squish landing on the heel, middle of the shoe, but it can feel a little bit thin in the forefoot, surprisingly. So we had 43, 36 under the forefoot, but I think given the big squish back here and the 7mm drop, it leads to a lot of pressure under the forefoot if you are landing on rocky terrain. They did bump up the outsole here. You've got a solid 4mm lugs. It's not Vibram Mega Grip. Hoka's blend here. So these lugs are definitely a little more shapely for trails. I tested previous Challenger versions that had kind of squarish, flatter lugs. They definitely lean more into trails here, but I think this is more appropriate in terms of traction, not necessarily on rocky terrain. On rocky terrain, it's so soft that you could see how rocks and anything really gets into there. Even though it's 37mm, there's gaps here, of course. The lugs are not super big. Again, the foam is just so soft. You'll just feel stuff poking through into your foot. And again, with the 7mm drop being heel oriented, when you land, especially if you're a midfoot, forefoot striker, I don't think this is the shoe for you. When you roll into that, it just feels like a lot of the pressure is going into the forefoot. So Great cruisy option, especially for heel strikers here. You're just gonna kind of roll along in this shoe. If you can find the sweet spot right under here, and you know that's a spot that's your typical landing point, and you just like to kind of cruise there, maybe mash the heel when you're going a little bit downhill, great option here. Let's see, I've got one more comment on here. Thanks for the review. Hard to get excited by such a shoe after listening to your H1 review. I don't understand why Hoka would put 4mm lugs on a road to trail shoe unless they have a gravel shoe in their pipeline. But their lineup is already crowded. That comes from KGenis100. Yeah, talked about the outsole here. It's kind of trail oriented, but I don't think the shoe is necessarily super trail oriented. I think this will just give you a little bit of traction. Maybe that previous comment or in UK trails, if you're getting out on, say, more moderate graded paths that can be wet or muddy, maybe this would be an option there. One quick question, I wonder why the stack height and drop are so different comparing what the brand lists opposed to what individual reviewers sometimes state. Hoka's done a good job. They've kind of changed their measurements to include the full stack, which is what I always try to note in my reviews if it differs from the manufacturer spec. Check my sheet here. I had 43 at the heel, and they actually gave 44.37 for this shoe. So I'm right in line with Hoka. Let's move on to the next shoe here, and we'll continue that conversation. The UNNA times Hoka Speedgoat 2. I was actually mentioning in some comments that I had never run in a Speedgoat 2, but that is actually not true. I ran a 10K long ago in New Jersey, and I won a voucher for a Speedgoat 2. I had a yellow and teal version. Now that I think about it, it was so long ago that I almost did not remember. UNNA is Swedish brand, Scandinavian brand. This is more of a design collaboration. They have a pretty cool tan version. They have this silvery kind of purplish version. They have some caterpillars there. Oh, didn't bring them out here. I think my daughter has them somewhere. She actually loves them. They clip on the laces. They look pretty cool. One shoe says good, the other says place. If you're running, you want to be in a good place. Getting back to the measurements here, this one is spec'd at 32.37. In the past, Hoka used to not include either the outsole or the Strobel board, insole, some kind of thing. So if you follow my reviews, you will likely get accurate stack heights. I tend to go with what the manufacturer gives if it's within 1 or 2 millimeters of my measured stack. In the past, Hoka used to not include those things, so they have this. I saw it listed at 32.27. I did give a quick measurement on this one, so I have 36 in this shoe. So that would give, given the 5mm drop, 36.31 for the Speedgoat 2, which is, when you think about it, pretty incredible, because when Speedgoat 1 and Speedgoat 2 came out, it was this kind of revolution in trail shoes, massively stacked, soft cushion trail shoes. Version 2 here, again, measured at 36. A lot of the shoes these days, Challenger 8, pretty simple kind of door to trail shoe, 43 millimeters. You're getting many shoes that are really in the upper 30s, pushing into the 40s, 45s, even beyond with Hoka's own models, Mafate X. So just goes to show where trail shoes are going these days. 36, 31 seems a bit almost, I don't want to call it thin, but compared to other max stack options, this is still a cushion shoe, still deserves to be in here. Speedgoat 2, I got one comment here. Would you go true to size on those UNNA Speedgoats? Some say go up half a size. I do also have a 10 in here. So far, all 3 shoes in a 10. My true to size, again, 9.5, and I tend to wear 10 for space in trail shoes and most brands. With the Speedgoat in particular, and the reason why I've always had problems in the Speedgoat compared to, say, the Mafate line, is that I always find that their Speedgoat toe boxes tend to kind of narrow down towards the front and also kind of lower in volume at the front. I believe I had a version 4, and I think that was the roomiest one, but then 5 and 6 again got quite tight, and I had problems with these. So I would recommend going up a half size up in these. Maybe not compared to your typical Hoka sizing. I would go half size up from my personal true to size, but if you're comfortable in a Hoka sizing, I think they're somewhat similar. This shoe actually has a similar kind of narrowing of a toe shape. I find these two models different than, say, the Mafate 5 and the Mafate X models. Those tend to, I believe, feel a bit rounder around the forefoot and not taper as much towards the front. These both seem to do that. This one has a looser kind of a mesh here, so I find that it's a little maybe more comfortable here. This one is actually not an issue at all in a size, half size up, US 10 here. They give you two laces here. They have this is a stretchy quick lace kind of thing. This is a bungee elastic here, and they give you a regular lace, and I thought, okay, for sure, I'm gonna swap these out immediately, put in the regular laces. Let me do 1 or 2 runs, take some video clips with this. But I find that they actually hold pretty well, and I actually do like it. I typically, again, with the Speedgoat specific toe box here, I just leave this little section a little bit loose down here at the bottom, and then I pull this one pretty tight up top. And with the stretch, I find that I get pretty good foothold even with this stretchy bungee, and I can keep this loose. It seems to hold the foot pretty well, so I may just put the other laces in just for fun, but I'm kind of liking this bungee setup here. I just kind of have to like tuck them in. They're long. Tuck them in, wrap them around, but that's not a particular big deal there. This is a Hoka Speedgoat too. Everyone's well familiar with this. Vibram Mega Grip, 4mm lugs, multi-directional for grip and braking on the downhills. You know, maybe it's worth noting, compared to some of these modern shoes, it just feels, you know, look at this platform. On the run, it pretty much feels like it looks. It feels just like a big, like from here to here, a big solid base to just land. I actually find it quite cruisy and quite comfortable on the run. I was surprised. I thought it would feel maybe dated. It's different in a way that a lot of these modern cushion shoes, again, I talked about them just going up and up and up and stack. That means they're introducing more and more and more toe sweep and more and more and more rocker to move all that foam along. This has a little bit up front, but again, this is kind of a older design. It's not extreme, you know, in the toe sweep, and certainly it's pretty flat underfoot from here to there. So if you're looking for that kind of solid, when you land, planted feel, I think this is still a good option. And if you also are not maybe a fan of that bouncy, super soft, maybe it may feel a little unstable cushion, this traditional compression molded Hoka EVA here, it has that softness to it. Again, this is not a new shoe, but it doesn't have the crazy bounce that some of the newer models have. So it just feels maybe a little more planted with that wide platform front and back, and also that kind of older foam. I don't know. Still a good option and looking good here. Moving down the list, this is the big one. Mount to Coast H1, door to trail, gravel shoe, light trails, do it all, everything. I've actually enjoyed this shoe pretty much in all terrain, maybe outside. I really not necessarily have taken it in super extreme steep terrain. Sections where I was running more steeper descents in smaller portions, I did notice a little bit of foot slipping, similar to what I also did find in the T1. Other than that, on more moderate grades, going up, twisty terrain, I find the foothold to be really excellent in this shoe. Again, I have a full review of this one, so check that one out for the full details. This shoe can go anywhere. Completely versatile. I'm heading out to Germany in a few days, and this is going to be one of the shoes that I bring with me. If I wasn't testing shoes and I wasn't bringing other shoes with me, and I had to maybe bring 1 or 2 shoes on a trip, this would definitely be one of them. I could wear this comfortably on the plane, you know, travel, casual. If I want to do some road runs in town, trail runs, pretty much everything, again, outside of maybe the most extreme steep terrain. And again, this is marketed as a hybrid shoe. You have light lugs here. They're not trying to say that you could run this in all types of trail terrain, but for what you get here, the value of the shoe, $160, 10% off. Check my link in the description below, Humble Running. You'll get 10% off of that already very well priced $160 here. Check out a couple comments here. This one comes from Run the Peaks. Great review. This one sounds very compelling. I've been looking for a set and forget it, do it all shoe for a while. A varied mix of chalk trails, fields, forest sections, back roads, pavement. Most of my weekly runs are a combination of those terrains. Best options have been the Vective Endurus Infinite. They seem to be a good balance across mixed terrain, and sizing for me is perfect in the North Face. I'll look out for the H1 and give it a try. So we talked about a couple North Face shoes. Endurus 4, let's talk about sizing first. I got this first in the US 9.5, and I think this shoe is very roomy within the shoe, pretty much everywhere except the very front. It does seem to taper just a touch. So I was able to get a US 10, and that is just perfect fit for me. I can cinch everything down here just fine with the lacing, so that kind of volume doesn't bother me at all. But this little point on the inside right here in the US 10 is not getting me at all. If you have a low volume foot, narrower foot, tend to like a more secure, tight fit, maybe you're a road runner especially, I would go true to size in these. If you're a trail runner and you're used to having a full thumbs width up front, you don't want anything interfering with the edges of your toes, I would recommend a half size up in these. Compared to the Endurus 4, that is a wider platform. It has the plate in the mix. It feels more of like a steady ride, and I think that would feel a bit much, certainly on roads and stuff. It would just feel like a bit too much shoe. This shoe, the weight of this one, 8.8 ounces here. So when you're running on the road, when you're running on those light trails, when you're like doing it all, whatever, set it and forget it, 8.8 ounces feels incredible in this shoe. So compared to the, I believe the Endurus 4 is in the upper 10s, maybe it might even be 11 ounces. Different kind of shoe, super long, ultra, you know, Vective rocker, more of a controlled kind of ground strike pattern there. The Infinite 3, on the other hand, will feel more agile. That one's thinner, it's lower to the ground. It has probably a narrower, snugger fit around the middle of the foot. Steep descents, any kind of terrain, I don't notice any foot slippage in that shoe, especially the Infinite 3 and the Sky 2. That Vective rocker kind of pushes up into the middle of the foot, seats the heel well, and you don't get any kind of forward foot slippage in that shoe at all. So once you're leaning into more, I think that shoe has 5mm lugs though, also the Infinite 3, I'll double check that. So again, of course, compared to this one here, you're gonna get a lot more traction in steeper terrain, wet and muddy terrain, like the previous commenter from the UK suggested, but awesome shoe here. I got one more comment. This one comes from Warfield Run. Maybe I'm crazy, but this H1 seems like a strong competitor to the 005. Maybe just as fast and more versatile at half the price. It's super lightweight, high energy outsole return for speed, a bit more stack, so viable for long ultras or mid packers, more durable outsole, and the good road miles too. The only advantage I can see for the 005 is the outsole on wet ground, but that said, I don't use the 005 in mud. What do I got here? I do have my 005 here. This is surprisingly a close competition here. This is, I said 8.8. I believe this is 8.7 ounces or 8.8. Very close here. Both have a volume fit in the upper. One note on sizing though, I have this one in a 10 and it runs definitely shorter than most 10s, definitely shorter than this one in a 10. I was able to get a 10.5 in the 005 and I get the right length, but then the volume is quite spacious inside. So I'm sort of in between sizes with the 005 due to the volume in the upper and the bit of shortness, which tends to be across the board in Nordlite models. But this foam certainly is softer. I think this is surely a more flexible shoe. You get more squish and more reactivity from this shoe. This is a bit more firmer, but not that much. A little bit of a more controlled ride, I would say. You're gonna get more traction here. You have deeper lugs, deeper outsole in the 005 here, but I wouldn't say it's necessarily a super huge advantage there. They're quite spaced out. You have a lot of empty space between these lugs here. I don't think the outsole of 005 is necessarily its strongest point. It's definitely not. So compared to this one, I think I am going to have to run a test comparison in these two shoes. They feel quite similar. Foothold, again, I think it's better in the 005, but I think it's especially better if you have a higher volume foot. You may have movement issues in this shoe similar to what I have in this one if you have a narrower foot or a lower volume foot. Surprisingly a close comp. Again, 325 and 160, plus you got my 10% off there, so that is a factor. Let's move on to some craft shoes. I've got the Nordlite Ultra Pro here and the Xplor Pro. I have a first run review video in both of these shoes. Let's start off with this one. I ran the Mammoth 50K in the shoe. I talked about that in my review video. It pretty much performed exactly as I expected in the 50K. I had run the Dragon's Back Ascent the previous day in the North Face Sky 2. 50K was the middle distance out of the three, the longest distance out of the three events, the middle event. This was just a great shoe for that course. Again, this is a California terrain. It was sections of kind of rocky terrain. Again, more of it was on the uphill in that Dragon's Back Ascent, a little bit on the downhill, sometimes on the backside, but didn't have to really contend with super technical terrain. This is really, I mean, I think the tagline was the gravel world champion, and this was the, I don't know what the gravel champion, regular champion, I don't know, but a very runnably oriented shoe and geometry here. You can see how it looks. It almost has the look of kind of a road shoe. The CR Foam Pro with the PIBA in the mix, no plate here. So I was pretty shocked on that review. Again, check out that video on how flexible this shoe was. You would think with this geometry, I tested the Nordlite Ultra 2, not the Pro model. These names are a little tricky to not get mixed up. That one felt stiffer. Craft shoes in the past, I tested CTM Ultra, felt a little bit stiffer. Those felt more kind of like road gravel oriented. With the flexibility of this one, I just felt like it was great on trails. I mean, you could see if you're landing like this, there's plenty of room for your foot to articulate and not get thrown in this direction or another. You've got a solid outsole there. Again, you're missing some coverage here, so it's gonna lean more into runnable terrain just for this aspect alone. If you're running through, say, talus fields, sharp, exposed rocks, I mean, you don't want that kind of stuff jabbing through here, so you have to factor that in. But I felt great in the 50K. My feet felt perfect, no issues anywhere at all in the shoe. Again, in craft, as with most of these other models, I sized up to US 10. I did test the Ultra 2 in a 9.5. Felt good, a little bit of a stiffer ride, but I was getting kind of squeezed in the toe box. Craft does have kind of a tapered toe box across a lot of their models. They definitely fixed the upper. That was a point in my review. These edges are not jammed together like they used to be in all of craft shoes in the past. Kind of just like a normal shoe here. You have a pretty comfortable tongue here, and the upper's lightweight. This is a 10.2 ounce shoe, 288 grams. I measure 40 at the heel. They give a 6 mil spec drop, so you got 40, 34. Plenty comfortable for 50K, and I would say beyond. They build this as a Western State shoe. Efficient athletes, if you don't want a plated shoe, if you're not a fan of a carbon plated or otherwise nylon, fiberglass, whatever plated trail shoe, this is going to be one of your best options on the market. I mean, I really can't think of a kind of fast, racy, unplated trail shoe that's out there to compete with this one. Really good shoe from Craft here. Take a look at some comments here. I've been waiting for a review of these shoes, looking at JFK 50 shoe that can handle some trail, but also feel like a super shoe on some flat toe path. This is R. Ken Dust Jr. I was settled on the Cloud Ultra Pro, but now I'm second guessing after review. How would you say it compares to the Cloud Ultra Pro? That was the shoe that was actually the closest comparison that I was thinking of when I was running in this shoe, because it has a nylon fiberglass plate, but I don't feel it's as aggressive as some of the carbon fiber plates in other shoes. That one also has quite a wide fit, so it just feels like a more accessible super shoe. I do think this one has a more secure fit though. Around the middle of the foot, around the forefoot, it's a tighter, racier type feel in this shoe than the Cloud Ultra Pro. The Cloud Ultra Pro is pretty spacious. I have that in a 10. I could possibly go to a 9.5, but for long ultras, I'd be worried about length there. I just generally think that's a high volume shoe. So if you are swimming in the Cloud Ultra Pro and you want, say, a not as aggressively plated shoe, unplated, in fact, with the Nordlite Ultra Pro here, this is, I would say, on par with the Cloud Ultra Pro as an alternative, as those kind of accessible trail super shoes. So good option here. One more question here. Also comparing the two, would you say one could accommodate an orthotic better than the other? Talk about the insoles here. I did put in, this is actually the insole from the Prodigio Max here. It does come with a Ortholite insole, which not a super big fan of. I think I had a comment somewhere else about soaking up water, the only downside to the shoe, mainly the insole, and I said, well, yeah, it's an Ortholite insole. That's kind of what they do. So for that 50K, and generally speaking, when you've got an Ortholite insole, I would swap in a closed cell foam. I think this is some type of TPE here with the Prodigio Max insole foam. It's not a regular EVA, so insoles are getting better, but companies still like to sell shoes, and Ortholite insoles do give that soft step-in feel, so that's pretty much why they do that. Looking at some of these other shoes here, Cloudsurfer Trail here, this is a little bit interesting. This looks like it has some speckles in it. It looks like some type of recycled material. It's not Ortholite. It does, I'm not sure of the material on this one. This one's an interesting one. Maybe, it's nice that these Ortholite insoles can generally use recycled materials, but they just, you know, hold water. And that's another thing. I know the Mount Takoshu also uses an Ortholite insole. That's a little bit not so great. I've been running in it, it's been dry, but if I were going to race any type of wet conditions, I would switch this one out. Speedgoat 2, of course, Ortholite, we all know that. Getting back to the comments here, I looked at the Matryx version of the Xplor Pro and it looks beautiful. They also have a Matryx version of this, but I think they're only on the Swedish website. I don't see those in the US. I don't know if they're coming to the US or what, but they have Matryx uppers for both of these models. Take a look at the Xplor Pro here. I put less miles in this one. I got them just before Mammoth. I raced Mammoth in this one. I haven't put extensive miles in this one. I think a couple test runs, including that test video. This is, I mean, look at the bottom of these shoes here. This is your massive, just gravel cruiser here. I've got a comment here from Jim Beam 4736. What a great video. I have the Xplor Pro here and I did a little test run today. Went true to size, but I think I could go down a half size. The midfoot is secure, but the forefoot seems slightly loose in height and length. Your remarks about too much volume are spot on. They really feel heavy in hand, but not so heavy on foot. Just chunky. There you go. I'm a 4-foot striker. Now I'm thinking about the Nordlite Ultra Pro, but I'm unsure about sizing. If I could size down a half in the Xplor Pro, then the Nordlite Ultra Pro should be right and true to size. But I don't like a tapered 4-foot and maybe should size up because the Nordlite Ultra 1 felt too short. I should get both sizes. Bleep. Okay, this shoe, he mentioned it being chunky. 12 ounces, 340 grams here. So this is really, I think this is the heaviest shoe. This is definitely the heaviest shoe on the table here, and one of the heaviest shoes I have in my rotation right now. It's a lot. I mean, the outsole is just massive. I mean, I don't know if they're using even heavier weight rubber here, but it's also almost practically full coverage. The midsole flares out quite a bit, and it's just a lot of shoe here. Everything is well padded in here. Quick note here, I was talking about the Matryx upper. You have this integrated knit tongue here, and that transitions all the way down into the front of the toe box here. So this blue is throughout the front of the foot here. I think with the Matryx upper, I'm sure they might lose that setup. Maybe it's just Matryx. So I think at 12 ounces with the Matryx upper, I think that would be quite an enhancement for this shoe here, the Xplor Pro. The Nordlite Ultra Pro, I'm not certain. I mean, this is a pretty lightweight upper. You don't have that internal kind of knit booty here all the way in the toe box here. You just have this outer mesh here. And this is a very secure and well held upper. I don't think it would be much of an advantage to go with a Matryx upper here. Of course, it'll probably shave like a few tenths of an ounce or 10 grams or whatever that equates to. Probably save a little weight, but it wouldn't be that much of a difference with this shoe. It would be more of a difference with this shoe for sure. I have both in a 10. Definitely more volume in this shoe, definitely more width here, but it still has the same kind of a taper. I think I could definitely go down a half size. I think I could go with the 9.5 in this shoe compared to the 10 here. This commenter, if he's considering going down a half size in this one, I would probably maybe, he mentioned also not wanting to be tight in the forefoot. Whatever size you got in this one, stick with that for this one, even though you feel like you can go down a half size in this one. This one's a tighter fit. You're gonna have no problem or much less problem getting a real good hold in this one around the middle of the foot than this one. This one, it's just wide. The upper's a little bit looser. I talked to Mammoth Trail Fest was, of course, sponsored by Kraft, so saw a ton of these shoes all over the place. Obviously, they're pushing the shoe. And I did talk to some runners that were in this shoe, and especially like heavier runners, a few of them mentioned that they really love the shoe. I mean, I could see this being just like solid, like set it and forget it. You don't want to be maybe like say on a flimsier, maybe narrower platform if you're a heavier runner, maybe, you know, especially for some gravelly terrain and even technical terrain, if you have especially a high volume foot, I think that's the key. If you felt secure in this upper and felt like you're wrapped well and maybe not as much movement as I get in my foot volume, and you're a heavier runner, I think this wider platform, this volume of foam would work particularly well for you. So I think that's an option within that range. Let's take a look at the Topo Vista. Another one, I have a full review on the Topo Vista here. This is very interesting shoe from Topo. Quick look at the insole. They've got those FKT beaded TPU insoles. This one's pretty light, actually. I weigh some of these and I get varying degrees of weight on them. I think it comes down to how much filler is in between these beads. I've had some of them in the past where you just see a lot more beads. Here, it seems to be more filler, and I think the filler is lighter. It still feels good underfoot, but just a little bit different there. This is Topo Zip Foam. This is, I think, their bounciest, most energetic zip foam in any shoe, road or trail from Topo. I just noticed this again is a heavy shoe, 11.8 ounces, 334 grams, 40 at the heel, 35 under the forefoot. So they're not skimping in the stack department. Also the upper materials, everything is pretty solid here. This is a durable trail shoe. And again, they went with a different kind of outsole pattern here than your standard like Ultra Venture-esque or really the Mountain Racer type of pattern that they've used for years and years. Came up with something a little different here, notably giving a little segmentation here. It's crazy at 40-35 that this shoe is so flexible. And then they have segmentation here. You can see that. You can see the forefoot. So this is another option. I think heavier runners, it depends. If you like the softer feel, this is going to give you that. It's kind of similar to the Xplor Pro. Soft, squishy feel, but 40-35. So solid underfoot. And if you really need that forefoot space, this is what you're going to be getting, certainly with a Topo shoe. I have a size 10 here. It's pretty spacious. I could possibly, I'm always borderline with Topo. 9.5 sometimes feel like they're a little short, and they, you know, I get a little at the front of the toes if I have a too short Topo 9.5. But this 10 feels quite spacious. So you're going to get a lot of volume in this. You could perhaps go true to size in this one. Depends on your foot volume and fit here. The tongue is a little low. I have to point that out here. They have this kind of cutout, I guess, for flexibility, but especially if you use lace locking, even without lace locking, you're riding the top edge of this felt here at the top of the tongue. I feel like they could really just go a little bit higher here, change it to be a little bit more of a cushion setup, as they have with many other shoes. Just like eliminate that possibility from the equation. Many runners just go crazy about short tongues, and it's true. Like, why does it have to be that way? Let's see, quick comments here. This one comes from Cloudsurfer. Good to see a natural toe box shoe review. I personally just got the Mountain Racer 3 for hiking. Another good hiking option here, soft and flexible. I mean, I guess I'm not much of a dedicated hiker, but I think I would want more ground feel if I was hiking. You know, maybe long distance you want more stiffness, but don't ask me about that. You know, from the Max Cushion selection, I took an interest in the Merrell MTL Adapt Matrix. I'd be interested in seeing a comparison between those shoes, if that seems appropriate to you. This comes from Jeremy N6U. Yeah, this is an older shoe. I don't have this in this cushion one because this was out in the fall last season. This is a pretty high stack here. I don't have the numbers right in front of me, but I'm sure it's 40 at least. I think it's actually a little more in the heel, but it is actually firmer than this shoe here. And you don't get that natural shaped toe box with Matryx, although it has a Matryx upper, and I find it quite, you know, adequate across the forefoot. Again, it's not gonna be Topo level toe box, there's no way. But I find with the Matryx upper, again, you can leave this loose and the upper just holds the foot really well. So I really like the foothold of this shoe, but it relies on a big toe sweep at the front, and the foam is definitely firmer. So you're landing and it's really, you feel like you're kind of rolling through the toes here. Whereas this one, even with, you know, they have to give a bit of a toe sweep here to get this foam moving, but you still feel like even through the 40-35 mil stack, soft and energetic, you still feel that kind of ground feel, you know, with the shoe twisting and flexing, contouring on whatever you're landing on. It just gives you more of a sense of ground feel. This one has less of that. It's a firmer foam, less kind of flex to it, a little bit, but not a lot. It's definitely a narrower shoe. And again, you're rolling at the front of the toes to get this one moving. I think it does feel quicker. I'm pretty sure this is quite a lighter shoe, but it's just a difference of kind of feel here. More ground feel, softer, kind of bouncier in a way. This has a firmer bounce, you know, with the toe rocker. So could be worth an A/B test. We can see about that. Last shoe I have up here is the Keen Seek. This is my latest review there of a shoe. This is a great option, natural toe box option. This I thought was the clear competitor against the Topo Vista here. Keen, quite wide, natural shaped toe box, but it's probably not as squared off at the front. I think the sizing is more sizing accurate to me. I've got this in a 9.5, and I have about probably 7/8 of a thumb's length in front. Equal amount of space all around the front edge of the toe box. So it feels perfect for me. I mentioned in my review, I could possibly size down to a US 9 and wear thin socks in the shoe. In my video, I was wearing the Courtney socks. So if you like wearing toe socks or Creepers and Injinji, that kind of thing, and just like the feel of that inside of a natural, you know, wide, spacious toe box, this is a great option for that. I think this is a good looking shoe. They have other options too. This is my personal favorite. I think it just looks amazing. This is a great shoe from Keen. You've got Topo, you've got Ultra, now you've got Keen in the natural space, so keep an eye out for them. This shoe is 11 ounces, 312 grams, a bit on the heavier side, 39.33. The foam is not as soft as the Vista. I'll probably have to run them side by side to really feel them out. I think Keen leans more, they're very sustainably oriented as a company in general. That shows with the amount of outsole coverage they give, the durability. Again, the upper material seems super durable. They actually rated the outsole at like 925 miles until worn flat, some such thing. Everything is just high quality. I think they built this shoe with premium, durable materials, and you know, they're not really trying to skimp on weight. You could see that on the interior. They have a suede-ish type material. They do have a Orthotics insole here, 100% plant-based, which is nice, but again, the issue with the water, you could always swap them out. Maybe an FKT insole. I haven't tried it, but one of those TPU ones could fit in here nicely. It feels like a solid shoe. Durability is sustainability. So looking at the 11-ounce weight, I think that's what they're going for in this shoe. One quick comment here. Thanks for all the reviews. Been looking forward to this one. I think I might give it a go as I'm looking for a daily miles trail commute shoe. I love the Sylan Pro as my race shoe. Yeah, daily commuting shoe, of course, the H1, you know, if you're on roads and trail, I mean, this is a do-it-all. But if you're looking for that really spacious toe box and just a more, I think both of these shoes are going to be super durable. But again, you have this outsole here. I don't know what kind of trail commuting Patrick Saunders 2674 is doing. If you're certainly somehow commuting on trails, this might be a good day-to-day option. He mentioned the Sylan Pro as a race shoe. This shoe, I really love this shoe. It's a firmer foam, highly rocker oriented ride here. The Matryx upper wraps the shoe super securely. You don't get the same level of foothold in this one. It's more of a spacious comfort fit. This one locks down the foot like as well as any other shoe without being obtrusive in the toe box. Arc'teryx, 9.5 with Arc'teryx. Arc'teryx sizing tends to run big, but I still went with a 9.5 true to size in this. So at 9.5, quite spacious in the toe box, but like very dialed fit. Like foot doesn't move at all in the shoe. It's really great in technical terrain, real mountain trail terrain. Check out my video with this one up in the Sawtooth. Great, love it. Both, interestingly, similar loose knit heel collars. This one, they do give you the Velcro here, which is nice. So this one has no Velcro, but the collar is also, again, a little bit loose. I'd like to see them being a mountain-oriented shoe. I know they have a Vertex model, I think, with a higher collar. They have the ability to seal this tighter. I would like to see that in version 2. So as your technical trail running shoe, great option here. You know, cruisy commute trainer. Great option here with the Keen Seek. All right, quick mentions here. I've got some sock options here in for test. Talking about toe socks, if you saw my review of the Vista, I've got some Creepers pair well with the green here. They would also fit well. Actually, a lot of these shoes, most of them have decent enough toe box to wear a nice toe sock. So I have some Creepers options in for test. I've got actually a boot sock here from Creeper and an over the calf sock here. Still sunny, kind of hot, but it was 40 degrees here in the morning. So as we get into fall and I start getting out in more winter terrain, sometimes over the calf sounds nice. Sometimes I like to wear kind of long pants, but some calf coverage on a cold winter run would be super cool. Also have some options from Injinji here. You can see the natural oriented slant here. I've got these, I think I was running these with even the Speedgoats. This is an outdoor merino wool model from Injinji. This is a trail model. This is a midweight padded cushioning, not the merino in this model. So they have two kind of thick options here. Toe socks are great if you have a lot of volume in the toe box. If you just like the kind of toe sock feel, or you actually want to fill in space, and of course you have to like the toe sock feel. These are good options. So you have a Cool Max option here, non-merino and merino here. So my Creepers here, and then the winter options. That is all I got for you today. I hope you enjoyed looking at some more cushion for 2025. Which of these shoes do you think is going to make it on end of year best cushion list? Let me know what you think down in the comments. Do you have any of these models? What do you think about these models compared to my previous best cushion videos? Which ones are going to make the top list by the end of the year? I have a few in mind. So I'll be away on a trip doing some testing. I'm actually running Munich Marathon next Sunday. 1 week's notice. Sister-in-law called me up. I'm kind of putting together a video on how this came about. But essentially, I'm running a marathon on 1 week's notice. Speaking of cushion, this is going to be my marathon race shoe. Hoka Rocket X3. Feels great. I've been running my previous marathons, and I got some quite old next percent too. I think I got 3 or 4 models, 3 or 4 marathons in this model right here. This shoe, I mean, aside from this being kind of worn out, I think I got the other one here. Shoe gooted over here, sliced off this top collar that was grating my ankle in my last marathon. Have to do some wonky lacing to get this thing to fit. Rocket X3 just kind of fits normally. You know, you got the swoop collar. I do a bit of a lace lock just to keep the heel in there. It is carbon plated there, so it's a stiff shoe, but highly energetic. The fit is just, I find, so much better than this kind of I don't know, this feels like oddly slanted to me. Previous marathons, I still got these guys out here. Again, another shoe goo special here. This one is always tricky to get them laced up properly, but sometimes I like to do a speed day still in these shoes. These are the shoes that I've been running my last road marathon. I haven't run, the last road marathon was 2022 in this shoe. So in less than 1 week's time, I'll be running my next marathon in the Rocket X3 here. We'll see if it's time to fly. We'll see how I feel. That's been 3 years by now. So thank you for watching this one. Again, any comments down below. Check out my affiliate links for some of these shoes. Discount links, 10% again on this one here. Comments, questions, anything, suggestions for the next video, comparisons that you'd like to see, cushion shoe versus cushion shoe, both on the table here and in the previous video. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one.